Hello! It is another Tuesday, which of course means it's time for another in real life video. This week, we are taking a general viewer submitted question, and as per usual, feel free to submit your own question in such a way. In the comments below on these videos helps a bunch if you include a question mark in that question, because then it's far more likely for YouTube's comment filtering situation where I click on the button that says sort comments by does contain a question. That's what I do, and I look at them and I write them down on a list I've got. Nonetheless, you can also do that, as well as you can have a request or a question for a bunch of ranking. We haven't done a ranking recently, but I was actually thinking of doing one for this week, but well, circumstances changed a little bit. That being, the Fallout TV show got moved. Its season 2 premiere is now tonight, at least in the United States. It'll be in, like, I don't know, few hours or so. Right? As per usual, just as last time with season 1, we'll be doing a little Let's Watch where we sort of talk about the episodes afterwards. I'll try to get that video out as soon as possible. Hopefully in a few hours from now, after I watch the episode myself and enjoy it, we'll talk about it. Early reviews have already hit, and they seem good. They seem pretty good, right? On Rotten Tomatoes, I think it debuted with a 100, which, you know, I commented on this on Blue Sky, but those ratings always oscillate and, like, go down, especially if it's a 100. But still, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. It's probably going to be another fun time. It's going to be a fun romp through the Mojave Wasteland. Anyways, this week's question is not about the Fallout TV show, but it is about an Elder Scrolls one. And this week's question comes to us from a general viewer whose username ought to be somewhere in the lower third of your screen right about now. And they ask, if the Elder Scrolls series was a movie or TV show, what era would you want them to cover, and how in-depth do you want them to go with the era? A very fascinating question, a lot more compelling than the simple one that is on a lot of people's lips, that being, should the Elder Scrolls have a TV show, which, you know, originally Todd Howard was very standoffish on it, but has since opened up to the idea of it, which... Sure. Yeah. Why not? If it's good, then the answer is yes. But if it comes out and it's bad, then obviously we'll retroactively go back. We'll drag and break and be like, yeah, we all said we didn't want it. Right. I think the real question is, who would you get to do it? Who would you get to do it? Who would you want to be the showrunner? They really lucked into fantastically having Jonathan Nolan spearheading it, and then similarly, him getting on board some really good showrunners who care a lot about the source material in a way, right? I don't think you need your actors to know about the source material. I know this was in making headlines about Helldivers getting its movie from the director of one of the Fast and Furious movies, right? Or several of them. Which sounds fun, and frankly, I don't think you need to for Helldivers. It's not like it's got a bunch of deep lore, but it does help if someone on the project producing it does know something about what they're dealing with, right? Granted, I don't think that's necessarily a key for success, because maybe you're just that good, but I think it helps, right? There's no absolutes in this. There's just different factors and vectors by which, you know, oh, if you have this is going to give you a stat buff when it comes to making this movie or TV show, you know? Think about it that way. Like this, you're just increasing your overall chances of making something quality. The more you throw at it, the better odds, right? Maybe you don't need it. You know, maybe you don't need someone on your team to do that, and you can just put out something that's really cool and fun and people enjoy nonetheless, right? It's been in the news about how, what's his name? Walton Goggins still does not really have any interest in playing the games and actively is avoiding them because he thinks that it will color his own performance playing Cooper Howard. right? Which I think is totally fair. Meanwhile, there's other folks on there. What's his name? Aaron Moten, who has said that he would like to play them after he does plays his role. And I believe Ella Purnell said that she has played a little bit of them. And meanwhile, Macaulay Culkin, I think, who will be in season 2 as some sort of Caesar's Legion freak, has said that, yeah, he watched lore videos on YouTube ahead of doing his role, which is very fun, right? It takes all kinds, and like I said, I don't think it necessarily matters one way or the other. It just they're just different vectors on which you can pull on that will increase your odds of success. And for some actors, maybe it does help for them to know it one way or the other. And for other actors, maybe it actually does lead to a detriment for them to play that role, you know? Everybody's different, right? Such is the complexity of a collaborative work, which, you know, frankly, we should know of all people as being people who enjoy video games. Ideally, you would think that people who enjoy video games would understand the difficulty and complexity of that, but sometimes it remains to be seen. Either way, this isn't a question about whether an Elder Scrolls TV show or movie ought to exist, but when should it exist? That's a tough one. Part of me would like, just on a personal level, if I just want to commit to something fast and loose, I would probably say either third or fourth era, you know, during a period of time in which we're acutely familiar with. Maybe second era too, but I think I want it to happen. Okay, so here we'll take a step back, and why I don't think it would work it too well in tandem with ESO, and that's because ESO is so borderline all-encompassing when it comes to its own scope. But my ideal situation would be, it would be the show or movie. All right, if it were a show, which I think I would prefer, it would be not too dissimilar from the Fallout show. You know, it wouldn't be a direct adaptation of the events of a video game. I wouldn't even want it to be a direct adaptation of like an in-game book. Like, I wouldn't want them to directly adapt like the story about the rise and fall of Morrowind's tribunal. You know, I wouldn't want that. Anything based in the lore that we don't actively interact with, or like, what would you even say? Like, the rise of Raymond Cyrodiil, something along those lines. I wouldn't want that, because a lot of that lore is kind of deliberately written in such an esoteric way, which feels not entirely, but pretty unique to the Elder Scrolls as a whole. And I kind of like maintaining that mystique. And it also helps prepare for future video games, right? Wherein you can kind of bend the rules with the Elder Scrolls, and it's kind of fine. You know, the older lore feels like it's very much set up to support a video game, or in this case, support a show or a movie. So I don't want it to adapt, of course, like the direct actions of a player protagonist, nor do I want it to adapt the direct actions of someone that you like read about, or important figures that you read about. I would like for it to be, well, I don't know. I don't mind these important figures appearing in the background as like important characters, but I don't want it to be about them. I want it to be, like I said, sort of similar to the Fallout TV show, about a slew of new characters, and have a backdrop to the show or the movie be like what the players know about, right? Either the direct events of the player, or things that we know about, like when the Aldmeri Dominion came and sacked what do you call it? The Imperial City, you know? The signing of the White Gold Concordat, all of the events leading up to that. Have that be in the background. And you sort of tell like I don't know, like a Band of Brothers-esque story. I don't know. It is a tough one. But I don't want them to nail down too much lore, because I think part of the fun of Elder Scrolls lore is that a lot of it is in flux, or could be, or is at the very least oftentimes open to interpretation, right? When you make a show, a lot of that becomes like, very much nailed down and set in stone. And which is sort of the opposite of what I would enjoy, I think. Granted, take all of this with like a grain of salt, because I'd be down to be surprised either way. I'd be down to be proven wrong and surprised one way or the other. This is just me sort of like shooting from the hip about what I would or would not enjoy. And I think that's the truth of it right there. I think you would have it be set in, like I said, I'd be down for third era or fourth era, sort of have it go on in sort of the background with all of these greater events going on. Maybe you run into like a more important character, right? Maybe like someone is going to the Imperial City and there's like an envoy of the Emperor, or you see like a procession of the current standing Emperor, that being probably Uriel Septim or whatever, going by, or whoever, if you want to go with fourth era, stuff like that. I think there's a lot of opportunity as well with sort of highlighting the period between the end of the third era to when Skyrim spins up, right? There's quite a few years there where you could cover something. You, of course, would want to lean into like fun tropes and all that. Stuff that I think would be cool, but I think this is also just me being very Dunmer-centric in my appreciation for Elder Scrolls, so apologies. But I think it would be cool if it were like a tragic story. Sort of, yeah, what I would really like is I would love it to be like from the perspective of people living in Vardenfell as the Red Year approaches, right? And maybe they're like all friends. It's like a loose group of people. Some are friends, some are kind of like they have to be friends. They have to like put up with each other even though they hate one another, that old chestnut. But you get like an interesting cast of characters. One could be like Vardenfell born and bred, and the rest some degree of Outlander. And then stuff starts to happen behind the scenes wherein, the tribunal as they exist start to fall, and you revert back to Daedra worship, because they get outed as being fakes. You get stuff like Bardal crashing down, Red Mountain erupting, the water around Vivek City just like boiling. Stuff like that I think could be extremely cool, just happening in the background to these characters, and you have some sort of development there. And at the end of it, you could kill them all off, right? You could kill them all off, maybe have one or two survive the events, and they just show up there like a hermit living in the middle of nowhere. But like I said, having said that, first and foremost, I definitely have like an inherent preference for Dunmerry lore, and I also have an inherent preference for tragic stories. I love tragedy. So of course I would like that, right? But hey, this is asking for my take on it. But yeah, that I think is the rough thereabouts of how I would be down for an Elder Scrolls show. But even then, I didn't take it or leave it, right? I think the best way to go about it, especially if they're so unsure, like if they don't get someone who's like they're super confident with regards to like running the show, doing directing or whatever, writing a script, you definitely want it set up to where it's not stepping on anybody's toes, right? Have it sort of mesh with the lore in the same way that the games do. The lore is there. It's very like bendable. It's very it's open to so much interpretation that you can do a lot with it. I don't know. That's what I would like. I would love to see the destruction of Morrowind and all of that, and have all of the socio-political stuff play out as sort of that all crumbles around people, and groups like, you get to see how groups like the Ordinators or the Booyan Armigers sort of come tumbling down, the actions of the dissident priests, Yeah, maybe that's how I would like it. I would like it sort of taking off shortly after the events of the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind Tribunal expansion, right? You hear about like, oh, the Nerevarine actually turned out to be maybe the real deal and they've left, right? And then just all this stuff over the course of years starts playing out. You know, I'd be quite down for that. I'd be quite down for that. The only issue is like leading up to the Red Year from that point is you don't want to just throw in the Oblivion Crisis, because that's a huge distraction from like the main push and pull of what's going on in Morrowind. It feels so separate, you know? It feels almost like, oh, we're not in Cyrodiil, but we do kind of have to deal with this problem, right? This is, as far as we know, a global issue for everyone on Nirn. You know, it's tough. It's tough. But that's kind of where I'm at with it, I think. I think that ought to do it, right? I'd be hesitant to do anything during the second era, particularly during the time of the Elder Scrolls Online, because like I said, its scope continues to grow, right? It becomes difficult to not step on the toes of something in the second era. And maybe getting into the first era, maybe that's okay. You could do like the Elysian slave rebellion. That could be kind of cool. And frankly, that would probably be more palatable to general audiences, have it be human focused rather than like dark elf focused. You know, I feel like it's a tough sell for wider audiences who would be interested in watching TV or whatever. Because it's even a tough sell for people who play Elder Scrolls games, right? Let's not get twisted. Not everybody wants a non-human centric story. You know, as much as I would love that, it's definitely going to impact stuff when your main focal point isn't humans, because it's just not as relatable for boring people, right? For boring people, they don't get it. They don't get it, man. They can't suspend their disbelief. They can barely come to understand what, right? You expect people to understand the delicate political machinations of the Tribunal in Morrowind and the Great House system of the Dunmer? Come on. We can't, we can't expect that. Come on. Either an audience or hiring on some filmmaker or television showrunner. Do we expect them to understand the intricacies in the same way that we do after having played through Morrowind 5,000 times? Come on, we're fucking wild out here, right? We're reading into different subtleties that from one line of dialogue where you click through the wiki dialogue and you learn some little bit of information. Like, we're connecting dots like madmen out here. It's wild. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe like get stuff with Pelennor Whitestrake. But even then, I feel like what's kind of fun about Pelennor is so much of it isn't nailed down. And thus, I think in sort of hemming and hawing at this, we sort of get at what Todd Howard has famously said in a lot of the interviews, that it's difficult to do an Elder Scrolls TV show or movie adaptation or otherwise, or brand new story, because like, how do you do it? You know, how do you do it? So much is ephemeral. So much of it is ephemeral, and it feels like a betrayal to commit one way or the other, you know? Regardless, I do get this sense that like eventually, probably in our lifetimes, this will come to fruition now. Right? I feel like this is going to happen now. It's set in motion. It's going to happen, whether it's good or not, or bad or not. And maybe it'll get proven out that Todd Howard was right to say like, well, I don't know if it's a good idea. It's going to be tough. But hey, like I said, I think everyone's open to surprise. Frankly, in some ways, I think folks were surprised by the runaway success and hit of the Fallout TV show at that. Anyway, that ought to do it. I'm very much looking forward to season 2 of Fallout. Expect, you know, maybe I'll spin up some shorts in real short order. I still got a bunch of shorts from Oblivion Remastered to post, but it would probably make more sense financially to immediately begin putting out New Vegas shorts, right? It would probably make a lot of sense to push that right now, because it seems like everybody is doing that, you know? By the end of this, we're all gonna hate New Vegas, huh? All right, until next time, please take care of each other.